Good evening and welcome to tonight's second annual induction for the Ed Diane Donaldson Distinguished Wall of Fame. My name is Matt Outlaw. I'm the superintendent here for the Brandon School District, and I have the honor of being the master of ceremonies for tonight's event. I'd like to start with a few introductions of some of our folks that are here, and I'm going to just go through. I want to introduce our school board president, Mr. Kevin McClellan. Also from our school board, Diane Salter and Chris Yukas. Is Mr. Wills still here? Our village manager, Mr. Wills, he is an important meeting, but he was here, so that was great. We also have Bob Palma from Groveland Township Supervisor. Bob, thank you for being here. From Brandon Township, we have Candy Allen. Next up, we have, I'm going to tell you about some of the members of our selection team. We have Judy Miracle from the Ortonville Historical Society. We have Noah Cox, he's our student representative. We have Chris Yukas, who you've met already. We have Jan Meek, who is the CFO of our company. Mr. Brian Moore is a teacher, and he's our communication specialist. And Pam Westerby, alumni, and a member of our central office staff in the district. We're going to have two people that I'm going to mention shortly, but I'm going to have them wave quickly. We have two of our three last year's winner. We have Matt Lentz and we have Ron Sutton. We have members of the Donaldson family here. We have Tammy, Craig, we have the entire family of Mrs. Donaldson with us here as well. So welcome to the Donaldson family as well. We have a number of administrators, and I'm just going to go around quickly. We have Christy Spann from Curriculum. We have Dan Stevens, high school principal, middle school principal, Tina Chambers. Technology, we have Thomas Janchevsky. We have intermediate school. We have Mr. Andy Phillips. We have Diane Sedan, who runs preschool and our special education department. Mike Tucker is assistant principal at the high school. On Monday, he will be the new middle school principal. We'll come back to Maria shortly, and am I missing anybody else? Thank you to the administrators for being here as well. I want to do a couple quick thank yous, and then we'll get into our event here. I'm going to thank Tanya Sillig. She owns Paramount Signs. She put together all of this display. She's our artist. She's done all of our pictures and displays. Tanya does great work. Pam Westerby, who I've already mentioned, is Maria's right-hand person, and Pam has done a great job of helping out. Suzanne Evanson and the entire food service team have done a great job of putting this together. And last but not least, two things. Thank you to everybody for being here. Yes. I can't go through everybody, but thank you all for being here, all the families and friends. And the last person is the person who's really made this happen. Maria Schubring, wave your hand. Maria is an amazing person who's done so many things. She made just this whole thing happen last year, this year. Maria, thank you so much for all the little and big things that you did to make this event happen. Thank you, Maria. So we are here to recognize our second class of exemplary Ortonville Brandon graduates to the Distinguished Alumni Wall. Just over a year ago, the Brandon District launched this program with the generous support of the Donaldson family. Our vision for this program was to capture the amazing stories of Brandon alumni and use them to help our students to dream big and to realize that with hard work and dedication that really anything is possible. We also hope that this program is something that will help connect our community and our school district and give us a source of pride that throughout this Ortonville Brandon community that we can all celebrate the incredible accomplishments of Brandon alumni. And it gives all of us, as the alumni, the people that work here, it gives us all great pride to work in a district where we have so many great graduates that are making such a difference in the world. Last year, we honored three unbelievable men as our original three. They're here on the wall. We honored 1948 Ortonville High School graduate Ron Sutton, Mr. Ortonville, for his more than 60 years of dedicated public and community service to this community. Ron, would you stand up and be recognized? also honored 2001 graduate Matt Lentz for his distinguished accomplishments in athletics. He was a two-time All-Big Ten offensive lineman for the University of Michigan, and he's an alumnus of the National Football League. Matt, could you please stand and be recognized? We also honored 1965 Brandon High School graduate Joe Slaughter. Joe was unable to be with us here this evening, but Joe was honored for his success in business. He was the chairman and CEO of a multi-billion-dollar corporation, philanthropist, another great man. They set the bar high for this award, and we thank them so much for everything that they have done, and we're very proud of all of their accomplishments. Tonight, we're here to add 2 more amazing Brandon graduates to this wall. Their accomplishments are impressive, but their commitment to serving others should bring pride to all Blackhawks current and present, or past and present. So we're here, ready to move forward in this program. And I'm going to ask the same question that I asked last year. And that's this question: who will be next? Which student walking these halls today will rise to the highest level of their profession? Perhaps we'll find the cure for cancer. Perhaps we'll invent a technology that will change the world. Or perhaps become the President of the United States. Who will be the next Matt Lentz? Who will be the next Ron Sutton? The next Justin Quisenberry? The next Cynthia McDermott? These future members of the Distinguished Wall of Fame are here today in our halls, and I look forward to seeing their stories grow and seeing their stories being written over the next several decades. So I want to thank you all for being here and for all of your support of this district and for the youth of this community. Thank you so much. At this time, I would like to invite the entire Donaldson family forward. You can meet me over here at this plaque. We would like to thank you so much for your generous support for this project. This project could not have happened without the Donaldson family, so we just cannot thank you enough for this. I'd love to have the Donaldson family come forward and meet me on this side here. On behalf of the Brandon School District, I again want to thank the Donaldson family for making this project happen. But even more than that, I especially want to thank Mrs. Diane Donaldson for so many decades of committed support to all students in the Brandon School District and all that she has done for this community. Thank you so much for everything. And on behalf of the Brandon School District, I would like to honor the Donaldson family. Do you mind, Brandon, right here? So thank you.
Whenever I'm ready.
Sorry.
I can see it. Oh boy. Okay. Just give me a second. Okay. It's been really great to see all the people that I haven't seen for so many years and hear all the stories that have been so much fun to hear again and go through. And I appreciate everyone that's here, and I hope and pray that this will continue. Okay, I am honored to be here representing the entire Donaldson family as we celebrate the 2016 class of the Ed and Diane Donaldson Brandon High School Distinguished Alumni Award. I would like to acknowledge my family that is here tonight who have already been acknowledged, but my daughter Tamara, please stand up a second. Greg Peter is my son-in-law. Alyssa Peter is my granddaughter. And my niece Michelle. Gotta find my spot. David and his family, my son, were unable to attend, but are here in their hearts. Also, my granddaughter Alex could not be here. She's at Eastern Michigan University as a softball player. But they all are here with us, I'm sure. Combined, Ed and I served the Brandon School District nearly half a century. We came to Ortonville right out of Olivet College, where we met. 2 days after we got married, our first day of teaching began. We had a honeymoon in Detroit. As a college cheerleader, I was the captain of the squad. I brought the same energy, discipline, and commitment to my job as an elementary school teacher as I did to my college cheerleading team. My enthusiasm and spirit for helping kids learn and grow was evident each and every day. My passion for Brandon's kids was evident to anyone who ever saw me, or a lot of you heard me, at sporting events, any game, it didn't matter what sport. I thoroughly enjoyed my time as cheerleading coach at Brandon because the pride I had in everything this town and this school represents, and the pride I had in my students. I now live in Florida, where Ed and I retired over 20 years ago. I want to relate how proud I am of being associated with this award and how proud I am of this year's class. As a college athlete, Ed was a great leader and teammate, which ultimately led to him being inducted into the Olivet College Athletic Hall of Fame. He was number 14, and I would like to cite a few Godwinks, as our family call them, that we have had in the past few years. Alyssa, my granddaughter, had to get a license plate for the university, or for Ohio, because she was a resident there because she went to University of Toledo. And when she got her license plate, it had the number 14 in it. So that was very special. Also, before after she got her doctorate for physical education, she had to take a law test of some type. This is probably all wrong. But anyway, they gave her desk number 14. That's it. And then my granddaughter played softball in high school for four years, and she was number 14 those 4 years. But the Godwink that really kind of shocked all of us was a double Godwink, because my son David went to San Francisco to a Merrill Lynch convention, and he texted us his room number, 1414. So that is really special. During his career at Brandon, he rose from physical education teacher and basketball coach, where his team won 80% of their games over a 10-year span, to athletic director and ultimately principal. Ed lived by the motto, champions are made, not born. He believed life is a level playing field and success is earned through hard work and discipline by you and those you surround yourself with. He played a multiple of roles in the lives of all of the people that he touched, and especially within our family. He was a husband, a father, a grandfather, a coach, a mentor, and ultimately our best friend. Although passing away in 2007, his spirit lives on with us and throughout the halls of this high school, where he spent so much of his adult life. He would be extremely proud to be associated with this special event and to witness to this special event and these special people. One of the proudest accomplishments as parents is having Tamara and David being honored among our fellow alumni on the Brandon High School Wall of Fame, which is right down the hall, for being the state golf, for winning the state golf honor. For golf. They made state in golf. I still have a sense of humor. I still can make fun of myself. The accomplishment is meaningful to them because they are so proud to have represented their town, their family, this school and community, and to be associated with the many other talented people who've come through this school. On behalf of my entire family, I want to thank you for allowing our contribution to Brandon Schools to be recognized in such a meaningful way. We specifically want want to thank Superintendent Matt Outlaw for spearheading the idea, and to all those who supported it to make it possible. We hope this is something that will live on and expand each year to future generations of Brandon alumni. I want to congratulate and to say a big thank you to this year's class for your contributions throughout your life. You're a true representative of all that's good and positive about Ortonville and Brandon. You make my family proud to be Brandon Blackhawks. Congratulations.
At this time, it's my great pleasure to begin the introduction of tonight's honorees. They were nominated for their exemplary accomplishments in research, academia, and service to our nation, and selected from a pool of other outstanding Brandon graduates by a committee of alumni, school officials, students, and community members. At this time, I would like to introduce Judy Miracle, who is going to be introducing Justin Quisenberry.
It's my honor to introduce Justin Quisenberry, 2000 Brandon High School graduate. In 2000, he attended United States Military Academy at West Point, one of the few students from Brandon that's been able to do that. He has a Bachelor of Science in Economics and Systems Engineering. In 2005, he was deployed as an airborne infantry platoon leader in Kandahar province, Afghanistan. In 2006, he began a 2-year, 7-month deployment in Italy and Afghanistan. He was second in command of a 150-man company with a 15-month deployment to Afghanistan as an airborne infantry company executive officer. In 2010, he began a 2-year stint at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, including a 15-month deployment to Afghanistan as an infantry company commander. He spent a lot of time in that rough place. While in the military, he earned 3 Bronze Stars and a Meritorious Service Medal. He's married to Jody Back, who is also a Brandon graduate of the same year, 2000. And they have 2 lovely daughters, Eleanor, who's 4, and Margaret, who's 2. They live in Metamora. Since being retired from the military, Justin has been employed as an investment analyst and corporate financial planner for General Motors. And since 2015, he's been a senior financial analyst. In 2013, he earned an MBA at the University of Michigan Stephen Ross School of Business. It's my pleasure to honor this young man.
It is my turn. So first off, thank you very much. This is it's an incredible honor, and well, I think everybody knows it's an honor, but mostly it's a surprise. I probably should have wrote this down, but no, it really is a surprise. At the time, I didn't feel like anything that I was doing was that unique. Yeah, it's hard up here. So your bio's correct. I went to West Point for 4 years, and then I joined the infantry and deployed 3 times. I grew up in Ortonville. Man, this is tough. I don't know why. See my mom over there, she's crying also. Anyway, so I grew up in Ortonville. It was a perfect place to grow up, right? Great family, great parents, great teachers, coaches, everything, right? And to me, going to West Point was kind of an obvious choice, right? I always wanted to do the most challenging thing. I always wanted to do the most difficult thing. And I was always around parents, coaches, teachers who encouraged that. So I don't think anybody was surprised that I went to West Point, except my dad, I think. But I went. And then after I got there, I was surrounded with people who were exactly like me. Everybody was, and it was great. I loved it. And while I was there, the towers fell. Our world changed a little bit, and we realized that our career was going to be spent doing things a little more differently than they had in the 90s when we were growing up. So after I graduated, yes, I did deploy 3 times to Afghanistan. But even then, it didn't feel like what I was doing was that unique. All of my friends were doing it. All of my West Point friends were doing it. My bosses were doing it. My soldiers were doing it. My peers were doing it. Some Brandon High School graduates I knew were also doing it. So it didn't feel like anything special, which is why I'm shocked and surprised to receive an honor like this. That being said, I do know that what we did was very unique, and looking back at it, I understand that it was unique. Not everybody really answered the call. And I also am aware that although I didn't feel special, it was very, very grueling. I knew that at the time. I'll admit it. It was. We would deploy for 12 months at a time, fight, come home. The day you land, you're going to start training because you know you're going back again. And then you do it again. You go 12 months, 15 months, however long, fight, come home, land, and you know you're going to do it again. And you know that you're going to do that for as long as the war goes on, or until you don't come home. And not all of us did, including friends, soldiers, bosses, other Brandon High School grads. So that's what I thought my life was and was going to be. Fortunately, and Mrs. Miracle stole my thunder, before my 3rd deployment, I married Jody back. Now Jody wasn't married. I think most of you know her, but if not, she's in the front row beside the 2 other beautiful young girls. And if after we leave you don't remember what she looked like, her name's on these walls, on the academic wall over here, and then also on the sports wall over there. So she's got me in quantity. You know, I only got 1 picture. So that was before my 3rd deployment, and then that was kind of the first time that I deployed to Afghanistan, but then also had a genuine, very compelling reason to come home at the end of it. And when I did, things were different. We decided to leave the Army and move back. And where we were going to move back to was also a very obvious choice. Right? Where we grew up was perfect, right? And that's what we want for our kids. Yesterday I spoke to Susan Bromley of the Citizen. I don't know if she's here. I guess not. It was funny. I talked for 5-10 minutes. It was easier then than it is today. About my career in the military. And then she noticed it for sure, and she mentioned it, that I kind of started to light up when I talked about coming home and starting a family and moving back to Michigan. And she said, she asked me, she said, how do you think your military experience influences how you live now as a father, husband, employee of General Motors? And my immediate thought was to say, it doesn't. That's a chapter that's behind me. I'm a new person, a new life for me. And fortunately, I didn't say that to her. I said, I bubbled through an answer that said something like, I was appreciative for what I had. And over the past 24 hours, I thought about that question a lot. And the real answer is, I think that the military does affect the way I live my life quite a bit. Mostly because, as I mentioned earlier, when you come home from a deployment, and 3 times I experienced this, when you come home from the deployment, you get to see how a small portion of the world lives, and that's us, right? After having spent 7 months, 12 months, 15 months seeing how a large portion of the world lives, which is just very, very difficult, right? Extreme poverty, complete lack of security, fear at all times, life expectancy of 35, and it's terrible. It's terrible. And me and several of my friends kind of thought that was the the life that we were going to live, in the area that we were going to spend our life defending. And in fact, I joked with the people of Afghanistan I was going to get an Afghan passport. People would remember me when I would come back a year and a half later. But every time I would come back, I would realize that that's how that half lives, and this is how this half lives, and it's amazing. And so if I were to say the two things that I would say that influences in my now adult life, I'd say, one, I never want to take this for granted. And two, and most importantly, I want to be able to provide for my daughters what my parents provided for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Justin. It's my honor now to introduce Mrs. Donna Greer, who's going to introduce our next honoree.
It's my honor to introduce a fellow 1976 Brandon High School graduate as one of this year's Ed and Diane Donaldson Distinguished Alumni Wall of Fame honorees. Cynthia Heff has done amazing things since she left Brandon High School, and it gives me great pride to honor her this evening. After high school, Dr. McDermott attended Albion College with a major in biology and psychology. She then went on to Wayne State University to pursue her PhD, and this is where her career in research truly began. Dr. McDermott then made her way to Massachusetts, where she did research on the retina for the Massachusetts Eye and Ear Infirmary. In 1994, Dr. McDermott officially joined the Harvard Medical School staff, teaching anatomy, histology, and embryology to medical and dental students. During her time at Harvard, she has been honored on numerous occasions for her exemplary work, including receiving the Harvard Faculty Prize for Excellence, the Harvard Academy Award for Excellence, the Class of 2005 Favorite Teacher, and a 3-time nominee for the Harvard Medical School Prize for Excellence in Teaching. It has been an amazing career, and we are so proud of the impact this Brandon High School graduate has had on the world. Without further ado, it is my great honor to recognize Dr. Cynthia Heff McDermott as our newest honoree on the Distinguished Alumni Wall of Fame.
Some of the pictures I found of myself earlier. I look like a true terror. That little face of, man, am I going to get in trouble today? One of the things that is so amazingly humbling about this is, it has already been said by Justin, it's like, here I am in Ortonville, my favorite place in the whole world, and I've been to a few places in the world. I live in Boston now, but coming home is always coming home. This is home. And as I was growing up here, I went to kindergarten at Bell Ann, and Mrs. Donaldson was my second grade teacher. She's still teaching me. She's still teaching me. And, you know, maybe that's where it all started. As I went through college, I decided that, you know, I always kind of liked science. I liked math. I liked all the physical things like geology. And, but biology was really the thing I liked the best. And when I was going through Albion College, which I have been talking all day to 7th and 8th graders from 7:30 this morning till 2:30. It was like one group after another about here's how I got here, and here's some advice about, what I used to get here. And it was great fun. They were really wonderful students, and you have a whole group of, just excellent students, coming up path. And Monday I had the honor of being able to talk to some of the high school students. And one of the things that I noticed when I talked to our friend who's doing our longer paper articles is that my husband was sitting next to me. He said, "You really lit up when you started to talk about teaching." It's really true. I began as a teacher when I went to Albion College. I did a little bit of teaching in some of the labs. I worked in the really beautiful greenhouse that they had. I prepared for labs. I learned how to make solutions for students to do lab work. And I got to find out that my teachers were really wonderful people. I mean, I knew that here because it's a small school. You got to know your fellow students, but you also got to know your teachers, and although you might not dare call them by their first name, and it still feels weird doing it. Mrs. Fisher. Mrs. James. Mr. Warren. It's still, an amazing thing to come back here. It's such an honor. And after I went on from my degree, I got a Bachelor of Arts instead of a Bachelor of Science. So I got to do all kinds of fun stuff that was outside of science. And I thought that was a really great, fun thing. I did pottery, I did theater, I did all kinds of great things that I might not have done if I'd gone to a big school. So for me, the best thing to do was to go to a little school where I could be a fish that was swimming in a little pond, and I did things that I was afraid to do in high school. I was afraid to play sports in high school. I'm so sorry. I was just scared. I wasn't good enough. So I went to college, and some of the girls on my floor grabbed me by the sleeve and said, "Come on, we're going to softball." And I said, "What?" "Come on, we're going to softball." And so I didn't have a mitt. Off I went. And I ended up playing softball at Albion College for 4 years. They didn't have a varsity or junior varsity. I was just playing. So it was great. They put me out in right field where nobody could see. And when the ball comes at you, you pray, please catch it. I could throw pretty well. And, the thing I think was a real trick that our teachers, our coaches, so I had Shakespeare and a genetics professor who were our coaches. And these two guys were so fun. They were just a riot. They put me as the person who batted third. Now, coming from Boston, you've probably heard about the Red Sox, being in the playoff. You've probably heard about David Ortiz being a wonderful batter, and they usually put him in the third place because you expect those guys who are going to be in the third place to hit a big home run. So they put me in the third batting spot because I was good at bunting and running to first base, which took everybody off guard and helped our team a little bit. So that was great fun. One of the things I told students today was don't be afraid to try things that you've never done before. It really changes your life. Then I went to Wayne State Medical School. I knew I didn't want to be a physician, and I really liked biology, so I looked around for different places where I could learn how to be a research scientist. And I applied around a lot of different places, looked around, and finally decided, because I had gone on a field trip with a teacher of mine at Albion College, that Wayne State was a great place to go. So I went there. And one of the wonderful things was they were really anxious to have students. So they offered a teaching fellowship, which paid for all of my tuition for 4 years. Which was, that was nice. And that's when tuition was cheap. Yeah. And they also gave me $5,000 that I could use to live on for a year. And in Detroit, rent was only $125 a month. And so, it was pretty easy to get along there and, eat a little bit more than, spaghetti and cup of noodles. And, for very little money, we were right next to Tiger Stadium, so we would get a chance to go down to Tiger Stadium, have a hot dog, a beverage of our choice, and watch the Tigers play in the old Tiger Stadium. And it was the year they won the pennant, 1984. That was the year I graduated from Wayne State University with a PhD, which is a Doctor of Philosophy. I've been talking to 7th graders, so excuse me if I regress a little. So, it takes them a while to realize that, all kinds of people are doctors. Veterinarians are doctors, all kinds of people are doctors, and, I'm one too, but I don't happen to treat patients. So, it was a great joy to learn from the teachers that I had here that they really cared about me and they really thought I could do better. I felt that everyone believed in me and they pushed me. And Mrs. Donaldson, I can remember that there were some letters that you sent home to my folks. I still have my 2nd grade card. And, I didn't get all A's. I was an average kid, And, my playground behavior was sometimes not the best. And my writing, my spelling and writing really needed some help. So my dad sat me down at the kitchen table and says, here it is. I'm going to write out the alphabet and the numbers, and you're just going to practice it and practice it and practice it. And at the time, I thought it was just dismal. And now, because of that, people compliment me on my handwriting. And so, sometimes, the things that you think are really hard to do or are not as much fun as you like to be having are really the things that were really good for you. I started teaching when I was at the Wayne State Medical School, and it was the Department of Anatomy. So we would learn anatomy, and then a few days later, we would have to teach anatomy to someone who was at a lower level and didn't have to know it in so much detail. So people like EMTs and nurses and occupational therapists and physical therapists, and I was so scared. Fear has been like one of those things in my life. I was afraid to play sports, and it was fun. And then I was afraid to teach. Because I thought, oh no, am I going to know enough to teach these students? So I would walk up and, uh-oh, here it goes. And they would say things like, is this the elbow? And I would say, yes, it's the elbow! So that was good. And then today, when I was telling students this story, I was saying, and then we would ask a question about, well, what muscle is this one? And they all yelled out, it's the biceps. So they're already getting a great start. This is what we do first year in medical school. I was really proud to see how well they've come along and see the wonderful facilities that are here that weren't here when I was going through school. So when I was at the Wayne State Medical School in the Department of Anatomy, most of the faculty there were studying vision and the eye, and they were also studying the brain and the nervous system. And so being surrounded by all these really amazing people who were so passionate about what they did. Every day they came to work to do what they loved to do. It was pretty hard not to catch it. It was contagious. And one of the things we did was visit every different faculty member's lab and spend a day with them, learn what they did, learn what kind of equipment they had. That came in early information that we could use later on, saying, I need to do this thing. Can I come over to your lab and use your equipment? They'd say, we'd love you to. So the school sent us to different meetings. We went to 2 different meetings a year, national meetings, where we would present scientific information. And this is the sort of thing I wore to talk to the 7th graders and 8th graders today, saying, this is what a scientist looked like in 1984. Most of them were men, but most of us wore suits. So at that time, it was very unusual, actually, to be a female graduate student at that level. But I always got along fine with the guys, and when people came up to me at meetings, I could just cross my arms and talk to them like they were anybody else. So that was one of the things I think that was really cultivated here at Brandon. Everybody was the same. We were all in the same boat together, and there was never any kind of feeling of, women not being as good as men or any kind of separation like that. And so coming out of this background, it wasn't hard at all to go into a field that was mostly dominated by men. And doing research also gave me a chance to get up in front of people and talk, tell them about what I was passionate about. And I worked at the eye and ear and did research on a layer of cells in the eye, which of course I fell in love with passionately and wanted to continue doing research on that. So when you go to these meetings, one was in Sarasota, Florida, the Association for Research in Vision and Ophthalmology. It was the long name, ARVO for short. We used to go the first week in May after the long, cold, dreary winter. There was no place else to be but Sarasota, Florida, I'll tell you. It was a treat, and the school paid for us to go. So we'd go to the meetings, we'd spend some time on the beach, we'd present our research, and get to know all the people that we were reading papers on, because as you're doing research, you're looking at who's done this kind of research and how far did they get and how do we stretch it a little farther. I think that all started when I grew up here. I was wandering around in the backyard and there would be some nut on the ground and I'd go down and I'd pick it up, oh, pick a flower, yeah, pick it up, sort of take it apart and say, what's inside here? What makes this work? What is the question of structure and function in everything around us? And that ended up being a big theme throughout my whole life. From the time I was a little kid, where I was watching my dad, take care of cleaning the fish that we went out and caught in the back in the lake. We'd go catch some bluegills for dinner. Or he was also a big sportsman. He hunted, and we'd come home with pheasants and deer. And I learned all about the anatomy of the inside of animals, as a lot of people who were in my class did. It was a little more rural than it is now. And so, all of that part about the guts wasn't so scary to me. So as I went through anatomy, it was fascinating and it was amazing. So kids were asking me today, what was my favorite system? Was it the respiratory system, or was it this, or was it that? And I said they all fit together. Without one, none of the rest work. And it was a really eye-opening thing for them. They said, oh yeah, well if you breathe, you need to have the heart and the circulatory system to move the blood around. And so then you absorb nutrients out of your digestive system, and well, it went on. And you can see how it all becomes a really amazing, mysterious miracle. The way that, did I just turn myself off? I think about it. Over 2 seconds. Okay. So in the meantime, I was having a really good time doing research and stayed at the Mass Eye and Ear for 13 years, and was saying, oh no, I'm forgetting all this anatomy that I spent so much time trying to learn. And called up across the river actually, and said, do you guys need some help in the anatomy lab? And so the first year I volunteered. I said, I'd love to come over and teach anatomy. I'm forgetting anatomy that I know. And they said, come on over. So once I got there, I found, as I had at scientific meetings, all these people that you read papers of, and you knew they were really famous scientists, and they were at Harvard University. They were just regular people like the rest of us. They put their pants on one leg at a time, they have bad hair days, they're just wonderful human beings. And especially teachers, I think, are very sort of undervalued. The thing that I was telling students today was a lot of your teachers, and I might say probably all of our teachers, really don't teach for the money. We actually teach because it's so much fun. You get to talk to students, you get to talk to students one-on-one or in small groups, and they'll come up with a question and they'll ask you about it, and you kind of work with them. You say, okay, what do you know? And then how far can you go from there? And you find the place where they're having a problem. And then you say, okay, let's see. So if you think about it this way, does it make more sense? And all of a sudden their faces just light up and the light bulb goes on above their head. And you're going, yes, 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 they got it. This is so cool. So that's really the big payoff for being a teacher. And I had to make this decision. Was I going to stay in research and do that part-time and teach anatomy and histology, which is just looking through microscope at tissues and embryology? What was the decision to make? So it was very lucky. The people who teach at the medical school are either physicians who come and teach, or the researchers who come and teach, which I was one of. The dean at the medical school made a special position for me, which was just a teacher. So I got to go there and teach full-time. And I teach all kinds of students. Besides the medical students and dental students, I teach physical therapy students. I teach people who are looking for a career as physician assistants, which I think is a great career because you have all the fun of treating and helping your patients without all the overhead and worry about lawsuits. And they're just amazing people. They're, all in it, with a really altruistic background. I want to help people and I want to make them feel better and more comfortable about them in any way that I can. So, now I have this opportunity to teach medical students about how to be with people. So they're with each other and they're all stressed out. And you say, don't worry, you'll be okay. Because everybody is okay in the end, pretty much. We lose very few students in any of the courses I teach. And I teach a lot of different courses. And once they relax a little bit and apply themselves, it was the thing I learned in graduate school. Work hard, play hard. Set aside a little time to work, make sure you've got enough done, and then release yourself. Give yourself time to have some balance in your life. And they became a lot more relaxed. And they also started to learn that the faculty, who they were also very nervous about and afraid of, really were there and really cared about how they did. And I feel like I've been so lucky, beginning here, that I've been surrounded by people who cared about how I did. Parents who said, do your homework, and started me with that early on. And friends and colleagues who supported me. So that's what I chose, being a teacher. And now, I can't go anywhere in Boston to any hospital without someone knowing who I am. Oh, Dr. McDermott, I see you're here for an appointment. And you say, hi, how are you doing? What are what residency are you in, or what have you become? And it's really, really gratifying to see how the students that I had a hand in teaching have now grown up and become wonderful physicians, PTs, PAs, nurses, dentists, and all kinds of other occupations. So I think I really found it, the place of what is it that makes things work? How does structure work with function? How does it all fit together? And how does this miraculous life and planet all fit? And my students teach me so much every year. I get excited every fall, just like students do. Here it is, it's September, school's about to start, and they teach me things by asking me questions I have no idea the answer of. And I'm not afraid to tell them. I say, I don't know. I'm not sure if anybody knows the answer to this question. Let's go find out. So, students don't buy books anymore. Everything is on Wikipedia, or on Google, or on some more medically associated websites. So everything they do is reading on computers instead of books, and I kind of miss that, except anatomy atlases still exist. So they do have their hands on a few books once in a while. And so that's the story of how I got to where I was. It was sort of one foot in front of the other. I left here and I thought, well, where am I going to go to college? And after that, what am I going to do? And I just ended up in the right place at the right time. And I'm probably one of the luckiest people you'll ever see. Because, I started here, I had, a really good upbringing, a good, strong base, and it just carried me the rest of my life to where I am now. So, thank you, Mrs. Donald. Thank you, Donald. Thank you all. Thank you for y'all. You're welcome. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Let's have another big round of applause for both of them. So I want to thank all of you for being here tonight, helping us continue this Brandon tradition. We're so honored to recognize these outstanding Brandon alumnus, and we look forward to filling these walls over the years with many more distinguished Brandon graduates. So great to see the sons and daughters of this community making an impact on the world, and we look forward to sharing these stories for years to come. So let's have one more round of applause for our honorees and also thank you all so much and good evening. There's plenty of food over here. Please stay, mingle, socialize, and thank you again for being here. Take care.